Hey YouTube, Skipper T here. Part 2, as it's going to turn out, is going to be showing you how this disassembles, wiping it down, getting it cleaned up after I used it. Now I was going to shoot a video and show you guys, it in action, it being the chainsaw, the new MS 180 CBE Stihl chainsaw with a 16-inch bar on it. However, when I went out to film, it was extremely windy, was blowing my camera over because I was kind of up on the top of a small rise here in the flatlands, and it was extremely windy outside. So I messed around, played with it, finally got the tripod down into the ground and got it solid and everything. And then I didn't realize this till later, but instead of recording, I actually shut the recording off. And then a little bit later on, when I was all done, I shut my camera off, or will actually turn the record button off and set the camera back in my truck, and had almost 10 gigs worth of my driving around in the truck and the camera sliding around on the seat. So unfortunately, I don't have any video footage of me cutting down, or cutting rather, the logs into pieces. Suffice it to say that it went very well. Everything worked just like it's supposed to. Now, the 180 is not like the most powerful. I mean, there's a 250 series. They're pretty nice. They're, quite a bit larger, bigger engines on them, obviously a longer bar. And then there's the homesteading and or professional versions of this. Obviously, this is not one of them. But I will tell you this, I was cutting through some logs that were, actually just a little bit longer than the bar. So I would have to kind of come up over, cut, come back down, cut back around and into the log, back around, but it worked absolutely beautifully. Did everything like it was supposed to. Again, this is the easy pull start, bang, it was started. Again, don't flood the darn thing or you're going to spend a long time getting that squared away. But once that's taken care of, everything's fine. So I apologize for not having the cutting video, but at least I'll show you how we're going to take this thing apart. So as I mentioned in the previous video, it's got this one tool option here. What I'll do is I'll bring the camera in down close. I'll show you how all this disassembles. I'll wipe everything down, give it a good once over, and basically just, set it back into the shop here a little bit. I did put a plastic garbage bag down over my camo moving cloth, a Harbor Freight special. And that way I don't get any oil or anything like that on my tabletop here, or my cover that I like to use for the table. Anyway, stay with me and I'll get the camera set up and show you guys some close-ups here. Okay, here we are back at it, guys. Anyway, you'll notice on this that it's got this big white cover right here. And again, all you got to do is flip this little lever up right here, rotate this counterclockwise. I'm going to hang on to the bar here because it will just disassemble once this is gone. This whole cover comes off, and now you can see this is the thumb drive. You guys should be able to see this little dark rotating wheel right here. And this is what you use to tighten or loosen the chain on this. If I exaggerate it with this, you can see how it's moving the bar. Hopefully you can see that. You can watch the distance between here and here. And depending on which way you move it, now that's got a lot of tension on the chain right here. If I bring it back around and spin it this way, you can see that it's getting closer and closer here. And as a result, there's a lot of looseness in the chain. It's amazing how little it has to move in order for that to happen. To remove the chain, you just lift this section up off of this threaded pin here and gently remove the chain from this back sprocket. As you can see, I definitely was using it because it's got some sawdust on it. And again, my objective here is just to kind of wipe everything off, generally check the condition of everything, get it kind of cleaned back up so that the next time I go to use it, it's going to be fresh and clean and ready to roll. If you have tools and you take care of your tools, then ultimately your tools will take care of you. If you do not take care of your tools, simple enough, they're not going to take care of you. So I always want to try and get everything wiped off real good in here. Get all the little pieces of fluff and stuff out. Fold the rag up and run it into the crevasses around the edges. And then just generally do a good job of getting everything all cleaned up. A Q-tip would come in mighty handy on that for some of these smaller places here. And I will probably do that. Up around here's where the exhaust is, comes out the front side of the engine. So again, I'm just going to kind of wipe everything down, make sure it all, gets cleaned up good. Get any excess oil off of it. If you don't hit the bar oil, if you don't hit the opening on the bar oil here just directly, it's going to spill, it's going to run around, it's going to get everything else dirty. Now, I didn't do a lot of cutting. It only took me roughly an hour to get everything I wanted cut, mostly because this is such an efficient little chainsaw. I got to tell you what, I was impressed with how well this thing worked. It was as advertised, super easy to start, and once I got out there into the wood pile, man, I was in like Flint. I was working hard, I was working good, I was enjoying myself tremendously. Now those of you that know how to run a chainsaw and do like I do and enjoy it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you that have no clue, get yourselves a chainsaw. Figure this thing out. But it really does work pretty darn good. And I got a little dirt on the bottom. Get all that squared away. And basically what happens is this is kind of where some of the oil and such, if you spill it out of the bar and as it's self-lubing, and all I'm doing here, guys, just so you know, is I'm just wiping off the bottom section. Again, just trying to get everything cleaned up so that next time I use it, it looks like it's brand new, because having a brand new tool is really kind of a neat thing. Now, as far as this is concerned, the blade, or the bar and the chain, simple enough to take off. I'll set that, love it when you kink it up. Just one of the things you have to deal with when you're dealing with a chainsaw. Now that's just going to get a light dusting on it. The chain has been oiled because it's when it's on the chainsaw, it automatically oils everything. And again, you'll just see in here where some of this dirt accumulates back here on all of these parts and pieces. So I'm just going to wipe everything off real quick. Kind of get in behind that a little bit. If you take your rag, run it in like this, you can get all the way up to the bushing and the bearings in there. It's just a nice way to get things cleaned up. So, she's looking pretty darn good. Now, let's get the back side. And again, we're just taking the dirt off. I don't know about you guys, but when I start a job and a project and my chainsaw is all nice and clean, makes it easier. Now, I'm going to spin. This is where that knob on this thing here, it's got a little sprocket that's on the inside of this here. You probably won't be able to see it. Let me wipe that off quick. Oh, it's a little dirtier than I thought. Quick might be a relative term as it turns out. But nonetheless, going this extra mile, I'll clean the rest of that out a little bit later here. Actually, that's not looking too bad. Couple of spots in there. Yeah, that's looking fairly decent now. I might hit some of that with a Q-tip later. Anyway, right in here is this little black flywheel type thing, and it's the bottom side of this thumb adjustment portion, okay? So when you're rotating this piece here, it's actually connecting onto this, and you'll notice that if I spin this backwards, it walks down the blade. See how it got real close to the end? And if I rotate it this way, it walks itself up to the front. And this is how you adjust the tension on your blades, okay? So, let me wipe this back off. I'll show you a couple other features. But first things first, because I'm a neatnik when it comes to that, I'm going to go dump this off because why get everything dirty again? Okay. Alright guys, I'm hoping you can see this. These are also the controls I told you I'd mention on that. This is obviously in the off position. One lynch down or one clip down or detent down is the full-on run. But to get the partial choke or the full choke going, you actually have to depress this and the trigger all the way down. And once you've got that, then it'll go into the full choke mode, okay? With this black lever all the way down. Once you get going there and it starts, then you can lift it up to this one here, okay? Which is now in a semi-choked mode. And then once you engage it to run it at full, it automatically then will kick itself up into the full-on run mode and you're set to go. Like I said, once it's warmed up, just start it in this mode here. This mode you can transition from full stop to the full run position and start the chainsaw once it's warmed up. Again, don't flood this thing. It takes forever to get it cleaned up. But anyway, those are the controls that are on the back side of it. If you want to get to the air filter, then simply rotate this knob 90 degrees, lift up on this casing, which is obviously easier said than done. I'll move that out of the way. Make sure you get it all the way down. Oh, sorry. In order to do that, you have to depress this switch clear to the choke position, okay? Then once you get this down, this just clips on. Now, you've got access to the air filter, okay? Which it's an interesting design as in that it gets dirty from underneath. So you've got to pull the little air filter out. Your spark plug's right here. Obviously it's a two-stroke, so your gas and oil are mixed together. This has just got some little pins on it right here. There's a silver one on this side. There's a built-in plastic one. They connect right up in here's one of the spots here. There's another one just like it on the other side. You simply come back in, get it into place, it snaps in. Bring this back down all the way, rotate this, and then you're able to bring your start-stop switch back up to the start position. Now you can always test it by giving it a little tug in the front. We did get it into the positions correctly there. And kids, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Stihl MS 180 CBE chainsaw, okay? Now, I will put the blade back on and demonstrate this. This is rather unique. Always take the pointed pieces of your chain, like you can see right there, hopefully that's focusing, and it should go out and away so that it curves around the bar and back towards you. That way it's cutting on the downstroke, so to speak. Actually put that on backwards. So bear with me for a minute. Okay. Now we've got I did it again. Okay, it's a good thing I'm not a rocket scientist. Alright, now we'll get this put back in. And there's some teeth up here on the end of this at the top where this rotates. There's some teeth inside the bar which helps guide that into position. Now, I've got all the chains set back up. It's running down inside. Spin it around a couple times to make sure I've got it good and tight. This is the tricky part. Okay, so now that I've got it set up like this, let me see if I can find something to stack that on so you can see this as well. Maybe a couple of these will work. Perfect. So now I'm going to put my chain bar back on, and at the same time I'm going to come all the way back over this back sprocket, make sure that I've got it in a good spot. I'm going to rotate this all the way to the back. For correction, I might run it up forward just a touch, so that I can come over the top of this spine, okay? Obviously it's really loose on the bar, so I might just take a little bit of tension out of this, just a touch, okay? And as you can see, it's sitting on this back sprocket. It's all up in the bar where it's supposed to be here. This is the interesting part of this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to put my cover back on. And it's got pins in where these things stick out along the sides here that go into some holes up in here and around. And then also that center section in this part that turns. They all line up. It sits down on there. And then this just starts to thread into place, okay? All I want to do now is just get it on there in a loose fashion. Get it down, seated down. What I'm going to do is just give it a tug till it's kind of snug. And I'm going to back it off, and what that does then is allows me to adjust the tension right here. And that appears to be loosening it. This motion appears to be tightening it. Okay. This part is the tricky part, is to loosen this, and you've got to hold the bar up out here at the other end. You've got to put an upward motion on that. Then I'll see if I can't spin this. Now you'll start to see the chain rise up off of the bottom and get right into the groove there, okay? So I'm going to hold it up. That's pretty good tension. Maybe just a touch more, okay? Now that I've got it where I want it, decent tightness, now I can, still holding up on the end of the bar here, now I can crank this dude down. Give it a good snug, tap it down there like that, and my chainsaw is now ready to go. Okay. That's good. Should allow for everything to move freely. I don't know if it'll start. Okay. Once it catches like that, then you can go up to the next choke station. Okay, the chain spins, everything is fine. I'm glad I have my little sheet down here because it does lay a little bead of oil down as it's oiling itself and ready to go. And ladies and gentlemen, that's how you clean up your chainsaw. That's how you adjust your chain tension. That's how you take the whole darn thing apart and get it ready for the next use.